Viking Age Scandinavia, raiders and farmers. Tonight, we're traveling back to a time when simply surviving a single day required more strength than most of us will ever need. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and let me tell you about lives. Be so difficult, they'll make your own troubles seem beautifully simple. Welcome to boring history for sleep. The Raider's Path. You are Björn Ironside, a Viking warrior from the coastal fjords of Norway. In the year 845 AD, your life is divided between the brutal reality of subsistence, farming in one of the world's harshest climates, and the violent glory of raiding expeditions that take you across treacherous seas to foreign lands where wealth, buy, and death await in equal measure. The morning begins in your longhouse, a structure built from massive logs that can withstand the fierce northern winters, but offers little comfort against the bone-deep cold that penetrates every crevice during the long months when darkness dominates. The landscape and survival depends on careful planning and stored resources. Your family shares this single large room with livestock during winter, because the animals' body heat provides crucial warmth, while their presence ensures they survive the brutal cold that kills unprepared creatures, creating an atmosphere thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, animal waste, and smoke from fires that must never be allowed to die completely. The bed you share with your wife and children is nothing more than raised wooden platforms covered with furs from animals you've killed yourself, providing minimal comfort but essential insulation from the frozen ground that could leach away body heat and cause death during the coldest nights. Your morning meal consists of dried fish, hard bread made from whatever grain survived the previous harvest, and fermented milk that provides essential nutrients while lasting through winter months, when fresh food is unavailable and every calorie represents the difference between survival and starvation. The walk to your longship reveals the scale of preparation required for raiding expeditions. Dozens of warriors gathering weapons, food, and equipment for journeys that may last months while facing storms, enemy resistance, and navigation challenges that claim lives regularly among those bold enough to seek fortune beyond familiar waters. Your ship is a masterpiece of Scandinavian craftsmanship, shallow-drafted enough to navigate rivers while seaworthy enough to cross open ocean, powered by oars when winds fail, and designed for speed that can mean the difference between successful escape and death at the hands of pursuing enemies. The crew that joins you includes farmers, craftsmen, and younger sons, seeking the wealth and glory unavailable through inheritance, in a society where land passes to eldest sons, while others must create their own fortunes through skill, courage, and willingness to risk everything for potentially enormous rewards. Your weapons include a double-edged sword passed down through generations of your family, a battle axe capable of splitting shields and skulls with equal efficiency, and a wooden shield reinforced with iron that must serve as both protection and weapon during the close-quarters combat that determines victory or death. The chainmail, that protects your torso represents significant investment in survival equipment. Each ring, individually forged and linked to create flexible armor that can turn aside. Spear thrusts and sword cuts, while allowing the mobility essential for fighting. On unstable ship decks and muddy battlefields, your helmet, contrary to popular imagination, has no horns, but instead features practical design that protects your head, while maintaining vision and hearing, necessary for survival in combat, where awareness can prevent the surprise attacks that end warrior careers permanently and unexpectedly. The departure from your home fjord involves sacrifices to Odin and Thor, gods who control the winds and waves that determine expedition success. Religious ceremonies that seek divine favor for undertakings where human skill alone is insufficient to guarantee survival or victory. The navigation across open water relies on sun positions, star patterns, and wave movements that experienced sailors can read like written language, knowledge passed down through generations of seafarers who learned these skills through apprenticeship that often involved watching. Inexperienced navigators lead crews to death. Your first target is a monastery on the English coast, chosen because religious communities accumulate wealth while maintaining minimal defenses, creating opportunities for profitable raids that can be completed quickly before local military forces can respond effectively. The approach to foreign shores requires careful timing that takes advantage of tides, weather, and seasonal patterns, while avoiding detection by coastal watchers who might alert defenders and transform. Surprise attacks into costly battles against prepared enemies. The beach landing involves dragging your ship onto sand or rocks, while maintaining combat readiness. Because many raids fail during the vulnerable moments when warriors are disembarking and organizing for inland. Attacks while potentially under observation by hostile forces. Your first combat experience reveals the reality of Viking warfare. Brutal, personal violence where survival depends on strength, speed, and willingness to kill without hesitation while facing enemies who are equally desperate and motivated to defend their homes and families. The monastery raid demonstrates the efficiency by Viking tactics, overwhelming initial assault that creates panic among defenders, systematic looting that identifies the most valuable portable goods, and rapid withdrawal that avoids prolonged combat against superior numbers. The treasure that you capture includes silver chalices, gold ornaments, and precious manuscripts that represent enormous wealth to societies with limited access to luxury goods, but also human captives who can be sold as slaves in markets throughout the known world. The return voyage tests navigation skills, ship handling, prow and crew discipline, as laden vessels struggle through storms and contrary winds, while carrying wealth that makes them attractive targets for other raiders who might attempt to steal plunder through attacks on successful expeditions. Your homecoming brings distribution of wealth according to traditional shares that reward courage and skill, while ensuring that expedition members receive fair compensation for risks undertaken. But the real reward is the reputation that successful raids create among your people. The winter months between raiding seasons involve maintaining weapons and equipment, planning future expeditions, and participating in the agricultural work that sustains your community when raiding is impossible due to weather conditions that make sea travel suicidal. Your role in community life includes participating in thing assemblies where legal disputes are resolved, political decisions are made, and social relationships are maintained through formal procedures that preserve order during times when warriors are not engaged in external conflicts. The stories that you tell about raiding experiences serve multiple purposes: entertaining community members during long winter nights, preserving knowledge about foreign lands and peoples, and establishing your reputation as a successful warrior worthy of respect and followed by ambitious young men. Your family responsibilities include teaching your sons the skills necessary for raiding success, while ensuring that your daughters understand the domestic management that keeps households functioning during male absence and enables communities to survive between expedition seasons. The religious observances that mark seasonal changes include festivals honoring gods who control warfare, weather, and fertility. Ceremonies that maintain divine favor while strengthening social bonds that hold communities together. Despite the individualistic nature of raiding culture, your preparation for death involves ensuring that weapons, wealth, and reputation will enable entrance to Valhalla, where fallen warriors feast with gods while preparing for Ragnarok, the final battle that will determine the fate of gods and men. This raider existence combines the constant threat of violent death with opportunities. Tell you how to, for wealth and glory unavailable through peaceful pursuits, creating a lifestyle that attracts men willing to risk everything for the chance to achieve more than subsistence, farming, and social obscurity. The farmer's burden, while Björn sails toward glory and possible death. You are Olaf the Steady, a farmer in the same Norwegian fjord, whose survival depends on wresting sustenance from reluctant soil during growing seasons, so brief that a single crop failure means starvation for your entire family during the endless winter months. Your day begins before dawn in the same type of longhouse that shelters raiding families, but your building shows the wear and practical modifications that mark homes where every resource goes toward survival rather than the weapons and equipment that enable raiding expeditions to distant lands. The morning inspection of your livestock reveals the constant anxiety that dominates farming life, checking for disease, injury, or signs of predation that could destroy the animals whose milk, meat, and warmth make winter survival possible for communities too remote to rely on trade or external assistance. Your cattle represent the foundation of your family's survival strategy, providing milk that can be processed into cheese and butter that preserve through winter, meat that supplies protein during the lean months, and manure that fertilizes the thin soil essential for growing the grains that supplement animal products that the sheep that graze on hillside pastures during summer provide, wool for clothing and blankets that protect against cold that can kill unprepared human. While their milk adds to family nutrition and their meat provides variety in diet restricted by climate and geographic isolation. Your horses serve multiple purposes beyond transportation. They provide muscle power for plowing and heavy work, serve as emergency food during desperate winter periods, and offer the possibility of trade with wealthier neighbors who value good breeding stock and trained animals. The goats that can survive on vegetation, too poor for other livestock, provide milk, meat, and hides while requiring minimal care and feeding, making them essential insurance against the agricultural disasters that periodically destroy. Larger farms and more ambitious agricultural ventures. Your morning routine includes checking to hay stores that must last through winter months when animals cannot graze, because inadequate fodder means watching livestock starve while knowing that their death probably means your family's death during the months when no fresh food is available. The fields that you cultivate represent generations of back labor to clear stones, improve soil, and create the terraced growing areas that maximize agricultural production in terrain better suited to grazing than crop production, but necessary for growing the grains that sustain human life. Your primary crop is barley, chosen because it can mature during the short growing season, while providing grain that can be ground into flour, brewed into ale that preserves through winter, and fed to animals when other fodder is exhausted during exceptionally harsh winters. Oats that you grow serve primarily as animal feed, but can be processed into porridge that sustains human life when other food sources fail, creating dietary variety that prevents the nutritional deficiencies that weaken resistance to disease and cold during months of limited food. Availability. Your small garden near the house produces vegetables that provide essential vitamins during fresh seasons, while some varieties can be preserved through drying or root cellar storage, creating nutritional supplements that improve health and survival prospects during winter months. The daily work routine varies according to season, but always involves physical labor that would exhaust modern people, plowing fields with primitive tools, clearing stones that frost brings to the surface, maintaining fences that protect crops from animal damage, and countless other tasks that require constant attention. Your plowing equipment includes wooden implements reinforced with iron when available, pulled by animals that must be carefully managed to avoid overwork that could injure or kill creatures, essential for farm operations and family survival throughout the year. The seed that you plant each spring represents careful calculation of family food needs, animal requirements, and the amount needed for next year's planting. Because mistakes in this planning lead directly to starvation during winter months, when no additional food sources are available. Your harvest work requires the participation of your entire family, and sometimes cooperation with neighbors, because crops must be gathered quickly when they mature to avoid losses to weather, animals, or early frost that can destroy months of agricultural work within days. The threshing that separates grain from stalks involves beating harvested crops with wooden tools, work that continues for weeks after harvest while weather permits, because efficient grain processing determines how much nutrition can be extracted from limited agricultural production. Your food preservation techniques include smoking meat over fires that burn constantly during processing periods, drying fish caught during seasonal runs, and creating fermented products that remain safe to eat during winter months, when fresh food is unavailable. The root cellar that stores winter food represents major construction project that requires digging deep enough to avoid freezing while providing drainage that prevents spoilage from excess moisture, creating underground storage that may determine family survival during harsh winters. Your clothing production involves processing wool from sheep shearing through spinning, weaving, and garment construction that provides everyone in your family with the multiple layers essential for surviving winter temperatures that can kill inadequately clothed people within hours. The leatherwork that creates boots, belts, and other essential items requires tanning animal hides using bark and other materials that transform raw skins into durable goods that protect feet and bodies from cold, moisture, and wear that could create injuries or exposure. Your relationship with raiding neighbors involves complex social calculations. You may benefit from wealth they bring back, but you also suffer when they are absent during crucial agricultural seasons and when their raids provoke retaliation that affects entire communities. The trading that supplements farm production involves exchanging surplus agricultural products for metal tools, salt for food preservation, and other goods that cannot be produced locally but are essential for maintaining the technology and supplies that enable survival in challenging environment. Your participation in community decision-making through thing assemblies gives you voice in legal and political matters, while creating social obligations that may require supporting military expeditions, contributing to community projects, or providing assistance to neighbors during emergencies. The religious observances that mark agricultural seasons include ceremonies that seek divine favor for crops, livestock, and weather, while maintaining traditional practices that preserve community cohesion and cultural identity, despite the isolation that characterizes rural Scandinavian life. Your children's education includes practical training in all skills necessary for farm management and household production, because survival depends on everyone understanding how to perform essential tasks that maintain family welfare during both normal seasons and emergency periods. This farming existence provides the economic foundation that supports Viking society, while demonstrating the precarious balance between survival and disaster that characterizes life in environments where agricultural failure means death and successful farming enables just enough surplus to support the raiding expeditions that capture historical imagination. The Shield-Maidens. Choice. In a society where survival often depends on every family member's ability to fight, you are Astrid Björn's daughter, a shield maiden who has chosen the warrior's path, despite social expectations that women focus on domestic duties, creating a life that challenges traditional gender roles while proving female capabilities in combat and leadership. Your training began in childhood when your father, killed in a raid when you were 12, left your family without male protection, in a society where weakness invites attack from neighbors who might seize land, livestock, or family members during periods of vulnerability. The decision to train as a warrior rather than seek marriage protection came after witnessing your mother's struggles to maintain farm operations, while defending against men who assumed that widow households were easy targets for intimidation, theft, or forced marriage arrangements. Your weapons training included learning to use sword, axe, spear, and bow with sufficient skill to hold your own in combat against male opponents who possess natural strength advantages but may lack the speed, intelligence, care, and determination that enables smaller fighters to survive through superior tactics. The physical conditioning that prepared you for warfare involved daily practice that built the endurance necessary for fighting in heavy armor, the upper body, strength required for wielding weapons effectively, and the reflexes that mean the difference between survival and death in combat situations. Your first battle experience came when raiders attacked your farm during harvest season, and your successful defense of family property established your reputation as a warrior, worthy of respect, while demonstrating that female fighters could be as effective as men when properly trained and motivated. The decision to join raiding expeditions, rather than remaining home for defensive purposes, reflected your understanding that offensive action often provides better opportunities for wealth accumulation and reputation building than passive defense of limited family resources. Your participation in ship crews requires proving yourself through seamanship skills that include rowing during long ocean crossings, navigation knowledge that contributes to expedition success, and leadership abilities that earn respect from male crew members. Initially skeptical about female capabilities, the combat tactics that you develop emphasize speed and intelligence over brute strength, using agility to avoid attacks while seeking opportunities for decisive strikes that end fights quickly before opponents can utilize their physical advantages effectively. Your armor consists of leather reinforced with metal plates that provide protection while maintaining the mobility essential for your fighting style. Equipment that represents significant investment in survival gear that must be maintained carefully to ensure reliability during combat. The reputation that you build through successful raids includes recognition for courage under fire, tactical intelligence that contributes to expedition planning, and leadership qualities that inspire confidence among warriors who judge competence through performance rather than gender. Your relationships with male warriors involve constant negotiation of respect and authority, because social expectations about female behavior conflict with realities of shared danger and mutual dependence that characterize raiding expeditions, where survival requires teamwork regardless of traditional gender roles. The domestic skills that you maintain include managing household operations during periods between raids, because warrior status does not eliminate responsibilities for food production, clothing manufacture, and family management that enables survival during months when raiding is impossible. Your marriage prospects are complicated by warrior status that may intimidate potential husbands, while creating opportunities for relationships with men who value intelligence and courage over traditional feminine qualities that may be less relevant in Viking society. The religious practices that guide your life include devotion to Freya, goddess associated with both love and war, whose worship provides spiritual framework for women who combine traditional feminine roles with warrior activities that challenge conventional social expectations. Your participation in community affairs includes contributing to political discussions where your military experience provides valuable perspective on defense planning, alliance decisions, and other matters where warrior knowledge influences community survival and prosperity. The wealth that you accumulate through raiding success enables independence that would be impossible through marriage or domestic work alone, creating economic freedom that allows choice in personal relationships and life decisions while maintaining warrior status. Your training of younger women includes teaching combat skills to those who seek warrior paths, while respecting choices of those who prefer traditional roles. Recognizing that society benefits from diversity of talents and contributions, rather than rigid gender expectations. The leadership roles that you assume during expeditions demonstrate female capabilities for tactical planning, crew management, and decision-making under pressure, challenging assumptions about gender limitations while proving competence through successful performance. Your legacy involves expanding social acceptance of female warriors while maintaining respect for traditional women's roles, demonstrating that gender equality can enhance rather than threaten social stability. By utilizing all available talents and capabilities, the stories told about your achievements contribute to cultural acceptance of women who choose non-traditional paths while inspiring future generations of females who seek opportunities beyond domestic limitations that may not reflect individual capabilities or interests. This Shield-Maiden existence illustrates how exceptional individuals can challenge social conventions while demonstrating that survival in harsh environments may require flexibility in gender roles and recognition that capabilities matter more than traditional expectations when facing life and death challenges. The Skald's memory in a largely illiterate society where history, law, and cultural knowledge exist only in human memory. You are Egil Skallagrimsson, a Skald whose responsibility involves preserving the stories, genealogies, and wisdom that define Norse identity while entertaining communities during long winter nights when darkness dominates daily life. Your training began in childhood through memorization of traditional poems that contain historical information, legal precedents, and cultural values transmitted orally through generations of skilled performers, whose memories serve as libraries for societies without written records. The poems that you know include thousands of lines of verse that chronicle the deeds of heroes, the genealogies of noble families, the laws that govern social relationships, and the religious knowledge that explains relationships between humans, gods, and natural forces. Your performance techniques involve dramatic recitation that brings stories to life through voice modulation, gesture, and emotional expression that captivates audiences while ensuring accurate transmission of cultural information that communities depend on for legal and historical knowledge. The composition skills that enable creation of new poems require mastery of complex metrical patterns, alliterative techniques, and vocabulary that follows traditional rules, while allowing creative expression that captures contemporary events and personalities for future generations. Your role in legal proceedings includes reciting laws and precedents that guide judicial decisions. Because written legal codes do not exist, and justice depends on accurate memory of traditional procedures and punishments that maintain social order through established customs. The historical knowledge that you preserve includes accounts of migrations, battles, and political events that explain how current communities came to occupy their territories and establish their relationships with neighboring peoples and distant kingdoms. Your religious functions involve reciting myths that explain the creation of the world, the nature of gods and giants, and the prophecies about Ragnarok that provide spiritual framework for understanding human existence and divine will in a dangerous and unpredictable world. The genealogical information that you maintain includes family histories that establish inheritance rights, marriage possibilities, and social standing. Because aristocratic status depends on demonstrating connections to heroic ancestors and divine bloodlines that justify political authority. Your travels between communities provide opportunities to gather new stories, learn regional variations of traditional tales, and exchange information that keeps cultural knowledge current while maintaining connections between isolated settlements that might otherwise lose contact with broader Norse identity. The social status that you enjoy as a skald provides protection and support from communities that recognize the value of cultural preservation, but also creates responsibility for maintaining accuracy and neutrality that preserves credibility necessary for fulfilling educational and legal functions. Your relationship with rulers involves providing entertainment that enhances their prestige, while creating poems that celebrate their achievements and preserve their memory for future generations, but also requires diplomatic skill when dealing with political rivals and conflicting loyalties. The training of apprentices includes teaching memorization technique, performance skills, and cultural knowledge to younger people who will continue the oral tradition that preserves Norse civilization through periods of political upheaval and social change. Your religious poetry includes praise songs for gods that seek divine favor while preserving theological knowledge that explains relationships between human actions and supernatural consequences, providing spiritual guidance for communities facing uncertain and dangerous circumstances. Attainment that you provide during festivals and gatherings includes both traditional stories and contemporary compositions that celebrate recent events while maintaining cultural continuity through connections between past and present achievements. Your legal knowledge includes understanding of compensation rates for various injuries, procedures for resolving disputes, and precedents that guide judicial decisions in societies where justice depends on community consensus rather than written laws or professional judges. The historical chronicles that you preserve include accounts of famous raids, political alliances, and cultural innovations that explain how Norse society developed its distinctive characteristics while maintaining connections to broader Scandinavian and Germanic cultural traditions. Your poetic innovations include developing new verse forms and vocabulary that capture contemporary experiences while remaining consistent with traditional stylistic requirements that ensure acceptance by audiences familiar with established artistic conventions. The wisdom literature that you transmit includes proverbs, maxims, and philosophical observations that provide practical guidance for daily life while preserving accumulated knowledge about human nature, social relationships, and survival strategies. Your role in dispute resolution involves reciting relevant laws and precedents while helping parties understand traditional procedures for achieving justice that maintains community harmony, while respecting individual rights and family honor. This skaldic existence demonstrates the crucial role of oral tradition in preserving cultural knowledge, while illustrating how artistic skill and memory capability enable individuals to serve essential social functions in societies that depend on human rather than written records for legal, historical, and spiritual guidance. The Thing Assembly. During summer months, when travel is possible and agricultural work permits community gatherings, you participate in the most important political institution of Norse society, the Thing Assembly, where free men gather to resolve disputes, make collective decisions, and maintain the legal traditions that preserve social order without kings or professional administrators. The assembly ground lies in a natural amphitheater where hundreds of men can gather, while speakers address the crowd from elevated positions that enable everyone to hear legal proceedings, political debates, and judicial decisions that affect individual families and entire communities. By your participation in Thing proceedings reflects your status as a free landowner whose voice carries weight in community decisions, but also creates obligations to contribute to collective defense, support judicial decisions, and maintain the social cooperation that enables survival in challenging environments. The legal cases that come before the assembly include disputes over property boundaries, compensation for injuries, marriage arrangements, inheritance conflicts, and criminal accusations that require community resolution because no professional legal system exists to handle such matters. Your role as a jury member involves listening to evidence, considering testimony from witnesses, and participating in collective decisions that must balance individual rights with community welfare, while following traditional precedents that maintain consistent justice. The compensation system that governs legal decisions emphasizes financial payments rather than physical punishment. because community welfare benefits more from restitution that repairs relationships than from revenge that creates ongoing conflicts between families and their supporters. Your participation in political discussions includes contributing to decisions about military expeditions, trade agreements, alliance relationships, and resource allocation that affect community survival and prosperity through collective action and mutual support. The democratic elements of thing procedure include the right of any free man to speak, the requirement for consensus in major decisions, and the principle that law applies equally to all participants, regardless of wealth or family status, creating egalitarian justice unusual in medieval societies. Your judicial responsibilities involve evaluating evidence according to traditional standards, determining guilt or innocence through community consensus, and establishing compensation that satisfies injured parties, while maintaining relationships necessary for ongoing social cooperation. The religious aspects of assembly proceedings include invoking divine witness for oaths, seeking supernatural guidance for difficult decisions, and maintaining ritual purity that ensures divine favor for legal proceedings and community actions. Your economic discussions include establishing trade regulations, setting standards for weights and measures, and coordinating resource sharing that enables communities to survive disasters, economic disruptions, and seasonal shortages that threaten individual family welfare. The military planning that occurs during assemblies involves organizing collective defense, planning raiding expeditions, and establishing leadership structures that enable effective response to external threats, while maintaining internal cooperation and discipline. Your dispute resolution techniques include mediation attempts that seek compromise solutions, formal legal procedures that follow traditional precedents, and arbitration by respected community members whose wisdom and impartiality enable fair decisions in complex cases. The social functions that accompany legal proceedings include strengthening community bonds through shared meals, competitive activities, and cultural performances that maintain group identity, while providing opportunities for information exchange and relationship building. Your alliance negotiations involve establishing mutual defense agreements, trade partnerships, and marriage arrangements that create networks of cooperation, extending beyond individual communities to provide security and prosperity through regional coordination. The law-speaking responsibilities that rotate among qualified community members involve memorizing and reciting legal codes, procedural requirements, and precedents that guide assembly decisions, while ensuring accurate transmission of legal knowledge across generations. Participation in land allocation includes establishing boundaries, resolving territorial disputes, and coordinating resource use that maximizes community welfare while respecting individual property rights and family inheritance claims that maintain social stability. The diplomatic functions that assemblies perform include receiving foreign embassies, negotiating with neighboring communities, and establishing relationships that promote trade. while preventing conflicts that could threaten community security and economic prosperity. Your role in criminal justice involves determining guilt, establishing appropriate punishment, and ensuring that community safety is maintained while respecting individual rights and providing opportunities for rehabilitation that enables offenders to rejoin society productively. This assembly participation demonstrates how Norse society maintains order and makes collective decisions through democratic institutions that balance individual freedom with community welfare, while preserving legal traditions that provide stability and justice without professional administrators or centralized government. The merchant's journey. While warriors raid and farmers struggle for survival, you are Thorvald, the far-traveled, a merchant whose expeditions across dangerous trade routes connect Norse communities to the wider world, while pursuing profits that can create wealth exceeding what farming or raiding typically provide. Your trading expeditions begin with careful planning that considers seasonal weather patterns, political conditions in distant lands, and market demands that determine which goods will generate profits sufficient to justify the enormous risks involved in long-distance commerce through hostile territories. The merchandise that you carry includes amber from Baltic beaches, furs from northern hunting grounds, walrus ivory from Arctic expeditions, and iron weapons manufactured by skilled Scandinavian smiths. All products that command high prices in foreign markets where such goods are rare or unavailable. Your ship design emphasizes cargo capacity over speed, with modifications that maximize storage space while maintaining seaworthiness necessary for ocean crossings that may encounter storms, hostile vessels, or navigation challenges that threaten both cargo and crew. The crew that accompanies you includes experienced sailors who can handle ship operations, guards who provide protection against pirates and bandits, and specialized craftsmen who can repair equipment and maintain cargo during journeys that may last months. Your first major destination is Constantinople, where Byzantine merchants pay premium prices for northern products while offering silk, spices, and other luxury goods that can be resold profitably in Scandinavian markets, hungry for exotic imports, unavailable through local production. The Dnieper River route that connects Scandinavia to the Black Sea involves navigating rapids, portaging around obstacles, and defending against hostile tribes, while maintaining diplomatic relationships with Slavic communities that control crucial portions of the trade route. Your diplomatic skills include learning languages necessary for trade negotiations, understanding cultural customs that govern commercial relationships, and maintaining neutrality in local conflicts that could disrupt trade routes or create dangerous enemies. The trading procedures that you follow in foreign markets include establishing creditworthiness through reputation and guarantees, negotiating prices that reflect local supply and demand, and arranging transportation that protects valuable cargo during return journeys. Your currency includes silver coins, arm rings, and hack silver that provide flexible payment methods acceptable in various markets. because standardized coinage does not exist throughout the trading networks that connect Northern Europe to Mediterranean and Middle Eastern economies. The warehouse facilities that you maintain in major trading centers provide secure storage for goods, awaiting favorable market conditions, while offering bases for establishing business relationships and gathering information about political and economic developments that affect trade opportunities. Your partnerships with local merchants include joint ventures that share risks and profits while providing access to regional knowledge and connections that enable successful navigation of complex commercial and political environments in foreign territories. The legal protections that govern trade relationships include traditional agreements about contract enforcement, dispute resolution, and compensation for losses that create framework for commercial trust despite absence of international legal institutions. Your information networks include contacts who provide advance warning about political changes, natural disasters, and market conditions that affect trade opportunities, while enabling coordination of commercial activities across vast geographic regions. The seasonal rhythms that govern trading expeditions include winter planning in home communities, spring departures when travel becomes possible, summer trading in distant markets, and autumn returns before weather makes navigation dangerous or impossible. Your family responsibilities include managing domestic affairs during long absences, maintaining local business relationships, and educating children who may continue trading careers while developing skills necessary for success in commercial ventures. The risks that you face include shipwreck during ocean crossings, bandit attacks during overland travel, political upheavals that disrupt trade routes, and market fluctuations that can transform profitable cargoes into financial disasters. Your religious observances include seeking divine protection for dangerous journeys, offering sacrifices for favorable winds and weather, and maintaining spiritual practices that provide psychological support during long periods away from family and community. The cultural exchanges that result from trading activities include exposure to foreign technologies, artistic styles, and intellectual developments that influence Scandinavian culture while spreading Norse innovations to distant societies through commercial networks. Your retirement planning involves accumulating sufficient wealth to support comfortable domestic life while potentially funding younger family members who seek to continue trading careers or establish themselves in other professions requiring capital investment. This merchant existence demonstrates how commercial enterprise creates wealth and cultural exchange that supplements raiding and farming, while illustrating the risks and rewards available to individuals willing to venture beyond familiar territories in pursuit of economic opportunities. The craftsman's skill in the workshops of growing Norse settlements. You are Eric the Smith, a master craftsman whose skills in metalworking, wood carving, and jewelry creation provide essential tools and luxury goods that enable both survival, play, and display of wealth in a society that values practical utility and artistic beauty equally. Your forge represents the technological heart of your community. where iron ore is transformed into weapons, tools, and hardware that enable farming, fighting, and construction, while demonstrating the metallurgical expertise that distinguishes advanced from primitive societies. The morning routine that prepares you for work includes building fires hot enough to melt metal, organizing tools and raw materials for specific projects, and planning production schedules that balance immediate community needs with longer-term projects that build reputation and wealth. Your apprentices include young men learning skills that require years of training to master, because metalworking involves understanding fire management, metal properties, and fabrication techniques that cannot be learned quickly or without extensive hands-on experience under expert supervision. The iron production that forms the foundation of your work begins with bog iron that must be smelted in furnaces that reach temperatures requiring carefully managed fuel and airflow. Processes that transform raw or into workable metal through techniques passed down through generations. Your weapon making includes forging swords that combine hardness with flexibility through controlled heating and cooling cycles, creating blades that can hold sharp edges, while bending rather than breaking when subjected to combat stresses that destroy inferior weapons. The agricultural tools that you produce include plowshares that enable soil cultivation, scythes that allow efficient grain harvesting, and axes that clear forests while serving as backup weapons when military needs arise unexpectedly. Your specialized skills include pattern welding that creates decorative effects in sword blades, silver inlay work that adds beauty to practical items, and heat treatment techniques that enhance metal properties while creating distinctive appearance characteristics. The raw materials that you require include iron from bog deposits, silver from trade networks, and specialized alloys that enhance tool performance. All expensive commodities that must be acquired through trade relationships or seasonal mining expeditions. Your workshop equipment includes hammers of various sizes and weights, anvils that provide solid striking surfaces, tongs that handle hot metal safely, and specialized tools that enable precise work on decorative details and complex mechanical assemblies. The jewelry production that supplements metalworking income includes arm rings, brooches, and pendant designs that display wealth while serving practical functions like fastening, clothing, and demonstrating social status through quality and artistic sophistication. Your collaborative relationships include working with wood carvers who create scabbards and handles, leather workers who provide sheaths and bindings, and gem cutters who add precious stones to ceremonial weapons and jewelry pieces. The quality control that maintains your reputation involves testing finished products under conditions that reveal flaws, establishing standards that ensure reliability, and maintaining consistency that builds customer confidence in your work. Your pricing strategies reflect material costs, labor time, and artistic value, while remaining competitive with other craftsmen and accessible to community members who need essential tools but have limited resources for luxury purchases. The commission, work that provides steady income, includes contracts for specific weapons or tools, custom jewelry designed for individual customers, and repair services that maintain existing equipment while building ongoing business relationships. Your seasonal production cycles include heavy tool making during agricultural seasons when demand is highest, weapon production before raiding seasons, and decorative work during winter months when outdoor activities are limited and people have time for luxury purchases. The training programs that you operate include formal apprenticeships that teach comprehensive skills, specialized instruction for particular techniques, and knowledge sharing that preserves craftsman traditions while encouraging innovation and improvement. Your business relationships include partnerships with traders who market your products in distant communities, suppliers who provide raw materials, and customers who commission special projects that challenge your skills while providing reputation-building opportunities. The technological innovations that you develop include improvements in metallurgical techniques, new tool designs that enhance functionality, and artistic innovations that create distinctive styles, while maintaining practical utility that justifies purchase prices. Your legacy planning involves training successors who can continue your business, establishing family workshops that preserve techniques and customer relationships, and creating artistic works that demonstrate your skill for future generations. This craftsman existence illustrates how specialized skills create value that transcends basic survival needs, while demonstrating the importance of technical knowledge and artistic ability in societies that appreciate both practical utility and aesthetic beauty in daily objects. The Christian conversion. By the late 10th century, political pressures and cultural changes begin transforming Norse society as Christianity spreads through royal conversion and missionary activity, creating conflicts between traditional beliefs and new religious practices that challenge fundamental assumptions about divine will and social organization. You are Olaf Tryggvason, a Norwegian king whose conversion to Christianity forces choices between maintaining traditional religious practices that justify royal authority and adopting foreign beliefs that may enhance international relationships while undermining domestic political support. Your conversion experience occurred during exile in England, where exposure to Christian culture demonstrated the political and military advantages available to rulers who aligned themselves with the dominant European religious tradition, while maintaining access to advanced technologies and diplomatic networks. Political calculations that influence religious policy include recognition that Christian conversion enables alliance relationships with powerful European kingdoms while isolating your realm from pagan neighbors, who may view religious change as betrayal of traditional loyalties and cultural identity. Your missionary activities include sponsoring priests who establish churches throughout your territory, providing financial support for religious education, and using royal authority to encourage conversion, while balancing persuasion with coercion in ways that maintain political stability. The resistance that you encounter includes traditional priests who lose status and income when pagan temples are closed, conservative nobles who associate Christianity with foreign domination, and common people who fear abandoning gods who have protected their families for generations. Your religious policies include destroying pagan temples, confiscating religious treasures for royal use, and establishing Christian institutions that provide education and social services while creating new sources of political support. Poor and administrative capability. The cultural tensions that result from conversion include conflicts between Christian sexual morality and traditional Norse practices, disagreements about proper burial customs, and disputes over calendar changes affect agricultural and social rhythms. Your international relationships improve through Christian conversion that enables diplomatic marriages, military alliances, decent trade agreements with European powers, while providing access to scholarly knowledge and technological innovations, available through church networks. The domestic opposition that challenges religious change includes rebellions by conservative nobles who view Christian conversion as abandonment of ancestral traditions, popular uprisings in regions where forced conversion creates resentment, and political conspiracies that seek to restore traditional religious practices. Your military campaigns include expeditions against pagan holdouts who refuse conversion, punitive raids against communities that resist religious change, and defensive operations against foreign pagans who view your kingdom as traitor to traditional Norse values and regional solidarity. The administrative changes that accompany Christianization include adoption of written laws based on Christian principles, establishment of church courts that handle religious matters, and creation of new governmental positions that integrate religious and secular authority. Your educational initiatives include founding schools that teach literacy and Christian doctrine, importing foreign scholars who provide advanced learning, creating libraries that preserve religious texts while maintaining some traditional knowledge through written records. The architectural projects that demonstrate religious transformation include construction of stone churches that replace wooden temples, establishment of monasteries that provide religious education and social services, and creation of royal chapels that integrate Christian worship with political ceremony. Your marriage policies reflect Christian teachings about monogamy and divorce, while adapting to political necessities that require alliance marriages and succession planning that maintains dynastic stability during religious transition periods. The legal reforms that you implement include Christian-influenced criminal codes, modified inheritance laws that reflect new religious values, and court procedures that incorporate religious oaths and divine judgment, while maintaining traditional elements that preserve social acceptance. Your economic policies include church taxation that funds religious institutions, land grants that support missionary activities, and trade regulations that favor Christian merchants, while maintaining commercial relationships necessary for royal revenue and national prosperity. The cultural synthesis that emerges includes adaptations of traditional stories to Christian themes, incorporation of Norse artistic elements into church decoration, and development of hybrid practices that ease transition from pagan to Christian religious observance. Your succession planning involves preparing heirs who understand both traditional Norse political skills and Christian European diplomatic practices, while ensuring religious continuity that maintains international relationships and domestic religious policies. The resistance strategies employed by pagan traditionalists include underground religious practices, political opposition that frames conversion as foreign domination, and military alliances with external pagan powers that threaten Christian political authority. Your diplomatic initiatives include negotiations with the Pope that establish ecclesiastical authority, treaties with Christian kingdoms that provide military support, and agreements with remaining pagan neighbors that maintain regional stability. During religious transition, the social changes that result from conversion include new gender roles influenced by Christian teaching, modified family structures that reflect religious values, and altered community relationships that accommodate religious hierarchy within traditional social organization. Your legacy includes establishment of Christian monarchy that survives political upheavals, creation of religious institutions that preserve learning and provide social services, and successful integration of Norse and Christian cultural elements that enables political modernization. This conversion experience demonstrates how religious change can transform political systems while illustrating the complex negotiations required to balance traditional loyalties with international pressures and cultural innovations that reshape entire civilizations. The settlement of Iceland, as political pressures and land shortages create incentives for pit emigration. You are Ingolfur Arnason, one of the first permanent settlers of Iceland, seeking freedom from Norwegian royal authority, while establishing new communities that preserve traditional Norse culture in isolation from European political developments. Your decision to leave Norway reflects growing dissatisfaction with royal consolidation that limits traditional freedoms, increasing population pressure on available farmland, and opportunities for independent landholding that are impossible under established political systems. The exploration voyage that precedes permanent settlement involves sailing into unknown waters with limited navigation tools, seeking land suitable for agriculture and livestock while avoiding territories already claimed by hostile inhabitants or unsuitable for sustaining Norse communities. Your discovery of Iceland reveals an uninhabited island with volcanic soil, extensive grazing areas, and natural harbors that could support farming communities while providing access to marine resources that supplement agricultural production during difficult seasons. The settlement planning that follows initial exploration includes selecting locations for permanent farms, organizing transportation for families and livestock, and coordinating with other potential settlers who seek similar opportunities for independent landholding and political autonomy. Your family's emigration involves transporting livestock, household goods, and essential supplies across dangerous ocean distances. while maintaining animals and people during voyages that may last weeks, depending on weather conditions and navigation challenges. The land claim procedures that you establish include traditional Norse methods for marking territorial boundaries, establishing inheritance rights, and creating legal frameworks that preserve individual property while enabling community cooperation necessary for survival in challenging environments. Your farming operations must adapt traditional agricultural techniques to volcanic soil conditions, different climate patterns, and seasonal variations that require modifications in crop selection. Livestock management and food preservation methods suited to local conditions. The community organization that develops includes establishment of thing assemblies that provide legal and political institutions, creation of religious practices that adapt to local conditions, and development of trade relationships that connect Iceland to Scandinavian commercial networks. Your relationships with subsequent settlers involve negotiating territorial boundaries, establishing mutual aid agreements, and creating social structures that balance individual independence with community cooperation, necessary for defense and economic survival. The legal innovations that emerge include modification of traditional Norse law to address local conditions, creation of new procedures for dispute resolution, and development of political institutions that preserve democratic traditions while adapting to geographic and social realities. Your economic development includes establishing fishing operations that exploit marine resources, developing sheep farming that utilizes extensive grazing areas, and creating craft industries that produce goods for local use and export too. European markets. The cultural preservation that you maintain includes continuation of traditional Norse religious practices, preservation of literary traditions through oral recitation, and maintenance of artistic techniques that create distinctively Icelandic variations of Scandinavian cultural forms. Your diplomatic relationships include maintaining connections with Norway and other Scandinavian kingdoms, while establishing independence that avoids political entanglements and military obligations that could compromise community autonomy and economic freedom. The environmental challenges that you face include volcanic eruptions that destroy farmland, harsh winters that threaten livestock survival, terror and isolation that makes recovery from disasters dependent on local resources and community cooperation. Your leadership role includes mediating disputes between settlers, organizing collective projects that benefit entire communities, and representing Icelandic interests in negotiations with foreign traders and political representatives. The trade relationships that you develop include exchanges with Norway and other European markets, exploitation of unique Icelandic products like sulfur and fish, and maintenance of commercial networks that provide access to goods unavailable through local production. Your family establishment includes arranging marriages that strengthen community bonds, educating children in traditional skills adapted to local conditions, and creating inheritance systems that preserve family landholdings while enabling economic development. The religious adaptations that you implement include maintaining traditional Norse practices while accommodating local conditions, preserving cultural ceremonies that strengthen community identity, and adapting spiritual observances to geographic features unique to Iceland. Your legacy includes successful establishment of permanent settlements that preserve Norse culture in isolation, creation of political institutions that maintain democratic traditions, and development of economic systems that enable community prosperity despite geographic challenges. This settlement experience demonstrates how Norse expansion created new communities that preserved traditional culture while adapting to different environments and political conditions, showing the flexibility and resilience that enabled Scandinavian civilization to flourish in diverse geographic settings. Epilogue: the end of an age. The Viking Age, that spans roughly from 800 to 1100 AD, represents a unique period in European history, when Scandinavian expansion shaped political, economic, and cultural development throughout Northern Europe, while creating lasting influences that extend far beyond the geographic boundaries of Norse settlement. The raiding activities that initially characterized Viking expansion evolved into permanent settlement, trade relationships, and political integration that transformed both Scandinavian societies and the European regions they encountered through conquest, colonization, and cultural exchange. The technological innovations that enabled Viking success include shipbuilding techniques that created vessels capable of ocean exploration, metallurgical skills that produced superior weapons and tools, and navigation methods that enabled long-distance travel without sophisticated instruments. The social organization that supported Viking expansion demonstrates how decentralized political systems could coordinate complex military and economic activities, while maintaining democratic institutions and individual freedoms that contrasted with centralized European monarchies. The economic development that resulted from Viking activities includes establishment of trade networks that connected Northern Europe to Mediterranean and Middle Eastern markets, creation of commercial settlements that became major cities, an accumulation of wealth that funded cultural achievements. The cultural achievements that flourish during the Viking Age include literary traditions that preserve historical and mythological knowledge, artistic innovations that create distinctive Scandinavian styles, and architectural developments that demonstrate sophisticated engineering capabilities. The political influence that Vikings exercised includes establishment of kingdoms in England, Ireland, and France, creation of trade routes that connected diverse regions, and military pressure that forced adaptation by established European powers and political institutions. The religious transformation that concludes the Viking Age demonstrates how Christianity replaced traditional Norse beliefs through royal conversion, missionary activity, and political pressure that integrated Scandinavian societies into European cultural and religious networks. The settlement patterns that emerged from Viking expansion include permanent colonies in Iceland, Greenland, and North America, urban development in England and Ireland, and political integration in France and Eastern Europe that created lasting demographic and cultural changes. The legal innovations that developed through Viking political institutions include democratic assemblies that influenced European governance, legal codes that balanced individual rights with community welfare, and judicial procedures that emphasized compensation over punishment. The exploration achievements that characterize Viking expansion include discovery of new territories, establishment of transcontinental trade routes, and navigation techniques that enabled systematic exploration of unknown regions despite limited technological resources. The military innovations that made Viking success possible include tactical developments that maximized mobility and surprise, organizational methods that coordinated large expeditions, and strategic thinking that enabled successful campaigns against superior numbers. The agricultural adaptations that supported Viking settlements include farming techniques suited to diverse climates, livestock management that utilized available resources efficiently, and food preservation methods that enabled survival in challenging environments. The linguistic influence that resulted from Viking settlement includes vocabulary additions to English, French, and Russian languages, place, names that preserve Scandinavian heritage, and literary traditions that influence European cultural development. The technological transfer that occurred through Viking contact includes introduction of Scandinavian innovations to other societies, adoption of foreign techniques by Norse communities, and cultural exchanges that enhanced technological development throughout Northern Europe. The maritime achievements that distinguish Viking civilization include development of superior shipbuilding techniques, navigation methods that enabled ocean exploration, and seamanship skills that dominated northern European waters for centuries. The commercial networks that Vikings established include trade routes that connected diverse economic regions, market relationships that exchanged northern products for southern goods, and financial innovations that enabled long-distance commerce despite political fragmentation. The legacy of Viking civilization includes democratic political traditions, exploration achievements that expanded geographic knowledge, cultural innovations that influenced European development, an historical example of how decentralized societies can achieve remarkable expansion and cultural influence. The transformation that ends the Viking Age demonstrates how successful societies adapt to changing circumstances while preserving essential cultural values, showing that political evolution and religious change can enhance rather than destroy civilizational achievements when managed through traditional institutions. This remarkable historical period illustrates human capacity for adaptation, exploration, and cultural creativity, while demonstrating how geographic challenges can stimulate rather than limit social development when societies possess appropriate technologies, institutions, and cultural values that enable effective response to environmental and political pressures.